Hello and welcome to CBC Arts Exhibitionist, the only show on television dedicated to connecting you to Canadian artists, even during a global pandemic. I'm your host, Amanda Paris, and I'm coming to you from my basement. Most of the country is living and working in isolation, and although social distancing is critical, it can be difficult. There's only so many times I can organize my sock drawer. So for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to introduce you to some artists who will show you that when you're stuck inside, there's an entire world of possibility available if you just tap into your most important resource. No, not toilet paper, imagination. Today you'll see a paper artist who will put in hours of labor just to achieve the right texture, a cartoonist using humor to cope through COVID. We meet a sculptor inspired by nature's resilience, and a cat named Clouseau becomes one man's muse. I hope you're ready for a half hour of art inspiration because this is CBC Arts Exhibitionist. Fun fact, there are many forms of art where self-isolation doesn't have a profound effect on your ability to make it. A good example of this, the artists we feature on our series, Paper Cuts. Many of them work from home by themselves, but that doesn't mean the process is any less complicated. Cole Mitchell is here to take us through the many hours it takes to make one of her paper pieces.
There's nothing really like a clean sheet of paper because it is full of possibilities. Instead of it just being passive and accepting what I'm putting on top of it, for me, as I see it, it's heavily contributing to the piece. I am Cole Mitchell, and I am a paper artist. I utilize the properties of paper to help me express the magic and mystery of nature. Why I portray nature and wildlife would have a lot to do with where I live in Muskoka. I am a third-generation cottager, so we have been coming up here since before I was born. My grandfather built a cottage on Smoke Lake in Algonquin Park, and we spent our summers there, so it was a lot of exposure to nature and wildlife. This technique came about really sort of quickly. It just fell together like dominoes, and that just opened, a whole world essentially to explore. I'm working with the properties of paper. Using the different papers to create a different texture is what I find exciting, and then I know that those papers are going to give me something unexpected, something I can't predict in the staining process. So that keeps me excited about it. When I start a work, I will do my compositional work in Photoshop. I transfer that image onto paper and onto panel. And then once that's done, then I just choose my papers. My papering process is to wet the paper, crumple the paper. Essentially, I'm breaking the sizing and I'm making that paper softer so it will move more easily. I'm working with it on a acrylic medium so it will slide and tear less. And then forming it by hand. I have one tool I like to use. When I'm applying the paper, because I'm working with it wet, I do need to complete that work in a certain amount of time. I can keep wetting the paper to a point, and then it's going to start disintegrating. So I do have to get the piece finished in a timely manner, in one sitting if I'm working with a single sheet of paper. So once the paper is dry, I'm staining it. So it's an acrylic stain. I'm just using watered down acrylics, and I am wetting the surface again, actually, and then allowing the acrylic to just explore the surface. I've been 3 to 4 hours staining a piece, just because there is dry time. Even though I use a hairdryer to hurry that up, it still takes a while to stain a piece. I would hope that when people look at my work, it connects with some kind of experience that they've had themselves when it comes to nature, and it would remind them of that or echo that, and they would re-experience that feeling in some way. I know that there are so many directions to go with paper, and I can't see that I'm going to run out of ideas. Yeah.
As a result of the COVID-19 crisis, hundreds of art students across the country have had their final grad shows canceled. So we decided to give you a taste of what the world is missing out on. Tia Bennett is graduating from Ryerson University, and we wanted to take this time to celebrate her thesis project. Take a look.
So in my work, I like combining animations with design and technology to create these short videos and installations. I'm also a recent grad from Ryerson's integrated digital program, and you're going to be seeing some of my animations which I made for my thesis project. So they are abstract impressions of 5 different dancers made using a motion capture suit and a 3D software. So the different shapes and colors I used are my interpretations of these dancers' own words and movements. Take a look.
Coming up, meet the cartoonist, illustrator, and lawyer, yes, I said lawyer, with a great sense of humor and a ton of COVID-related art to share. The COVID-19 crisis has forced most Canadian artists to start working in isolation, and since we can't visit them, we've asked a few of them to tape themselves and show us how they're adapting their work and their processes. The series is called COVID Residencies, and we're heading to Vancouver for an edition with cartoonist and illustrator Zoe Si.
I am a cartoonist, illustrator, and lawyer. I am filming this in my home in beautiful, sunny Greater Vancouver, British Columbia, where I have been inside and away from people for about 17 days. This is not the easiest time to be alive, but luckily for you, my coping mechanism of choice is drawing funny and self-aware cartoons of myself. This painting I did, I think, on the second day of social distancing. I really like this one because I think it is an accurate representation of how I was feeling at the time, just kind of manic and trying to do the right thing. The right thing being cooking a lot of food that will last me at least a couple days, as I'm not allowed to leave my house. I was also fortunate to make a cartoon for New Yorker magazine about maintaining appropriate emotional responses when cooking for weeks on end with your partner. And I really like this one too because it really shows how we're all just trying our best, and also how no one really knows how to handle these situations that we're now finding ourselves in. This is my amazing tilting artist desk, and it tilts to 45-degree angle, and it makes me feel very professional. This is a cartoon I keep on my desk to remind myself to take it easy. Lots of brushes within easy reach. a lot more pens, and my acrylic gouache paints, which I love a lot. This is when I had to do cross-examination with the flu. This is me eating all the Halloween candy. My mom feeding me food. Being buried under piles of work. In my imaginary office with my imaginary dog. This is my travel paint set. Folds open like that, has a nice little water brush, and I use it to paint on the go, and it's a very handy little tool. And it's my favorite thing in the world.
To check out more COVID residencies, visit our newly launched Art Uncontained site at cbc.ca/arts. David Salazar is a sculptor whose work always explores the impact we have on the world and nature. Definitely a prescient theme in this current moment. Now he's working on a series that looks at the Earth's ability to come back from great trauma and how we rise from the ashes.
What these birds symbolize is as old as Babylon, blood and bone. Messengers from the gods, from the sky. It's a human narrative. And we bring these associations to birds. I'm really interested in working with animals and tapping into the cultural symbolisms of, for example, birds and what they mean to us in our literature, in our folk stories, fables. We have birds representing freedom, divinity, peace. Once our peace is interrupted, how do we grow from that? How do we become new? How do we get a new perspective in order for us to continue? My name is David Salazar. I'm a Toronto-based sculptor. I was born in Ecuador, but I was raised here in Canada at a very young age. My education at home with my grandparents and my family, a lot of stories of Ecuador, a lot of fables, a lot of fantastical stories where fantasy meets reality. And that has a huge impact to the way that I choose to tell stories. The project that I'm working for right now, it's a series of 100 plus bird botanical objects that are installed for the 3rd International Biennale in Paraguay, in Asunción. What does it mean for these birds abruptly, violently hitting the wall? Where do we go from there? They crash into the wall, but then they're also having botanicals growing out of them, where the end of one fuels the growth of another, a new process of a new life. A continuum of death and then life, and then death and then life. I just didn't want this dialogue to stay there. I wanted to continue. So what else happens? How do we get into the fantastical? How do I tap into people to talk to them about, well, life after death? What continues after a shock? So that's what flowers and plants symbolize to me. It's new growth. Once a tree falls down, new life sprouts out very quickly, racing for that opening in that canopy, racing for that elements of the sun. And I see a lot of that in South America, in tropical climates, where life just comes up everywhere. I feel that there are cycles, and I'm trying to make sense of everything. How is it that we can grow from this?
Coming up, our friend Steven finds out how many days it takes to paint a cat.
Hi, I'm Steven, and I'm bad at art. But even though I'm bad at art, I also believe that through deliberate practice, persistence, and willingness to fail, you can get better at pretty much anything. And over the next 10 days, I'm gonna try and get better at watercolor. The goal of the next 10 days is simple: capture the essence of my parents' cat, Clouseau, in a watercolor painting. I don't draw, I don't paint, and when I do, is usually pretty bad, but I'm gonna do my best to improve at these skills to give this cat the best darn painting because he deserves it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I think people are afraid of doing watercolor because they feel like they can't make a mistake.
This is Jill Cameron. She's a professional watercolor artist from Toronto, Ontario, who specializes in landscapes and is going to be helping me out with this project.
But what I've learned is you just have to kind of go with it. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. You can incorporate it into your painting, you can hide it, but don't worry about it. It's okay. Just have fun with it.
If you were to give one piece of advice to someone who was interested in starting watercolor, what would that piece of advice be?
Keep it simple. Being simple is, for me anyway, in watercolor, that's what makes the painting.
Okay, I think I've gotten as far as I can on these today. I'm actually pretty happy with how they turned out. So tonight and tomorrow I'm gonna watch some tutorials, see what I can learn, see how I can apply things differently, come back to this and try and finish these off.
Is I like to go in with a kneaded eraser and I just like to go in and dab this in.
Okay, well I think I did just about everything wrong with this, and that's okay because this is learning. Get a little bit of whisker action. Which doesn't look super great. You can tell that it's a cat, but I think we can do a lot better. Okay, so I don't really feel like I've improved that much in the 3 days that I've been working with watercolor, so I'm gonna try something different and just follow a tutorial online that I found of a fox drawing, and hope that by imitating the different techniques in this tutorial, I can finish this up and translate those skills over to my painting of Clouseau. I don't know if this one's gonna be as good as my last one. Yeah, I don't know if I actually improved it all today, but just keep working on it, keep trying. Today I'm gonna add in a background and see how that looks. And then from there, I think just keep working on the basics. Nice and moist. Much as I like the idea of having a background for this painting, I'm not sure if I'm skilled enough to do a good background and a good cat.
Keep it simple. Being simple is, for me anyway, in watercolor, that's what makes the painting.
So I think for the final painting, I'm just gonna focus on making Clouseau, the cat, look as pretty as possible. Okay, today is the second last day of this project. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually split up this last painting into 2 days and just really focus on the details, trying to do everything as nicely as possible so I get the best finished product. So I kind of feel like the last couple days, I haven't improved that much, and part of it is just time. I've been spending the same amount of time and maybe getting a little bit impatient. So if I can really nail down the details with this, I hope at least we can see a little bit of improvement. This is high stress. Trying to make a perfect painting. Okay, today is day 10, the final day of watercolor. Now that I'm really paying attention, there are so many more details in this cat's face that I was completely missing before. I think it's done. I'm pretty proud of how this turned out. I wouldn't have believed you if 10 days ago you told me I could make a painting that looks like this. As far as takeaways go for this episode, I think the main one that just really sticks out to me is that for the longest time, I believed that Artistic talent was something that you were born with. If you weren't good at drawing to begin with, you're never going to get good at drawing or painting or whatever it is. And going through this process has just reminded me the value of deliberate practice and persistence and spending time on something when developing skills. Learning how to get good at painting or watercolor is no different than learning how to get good at basketball or juggling, and I think that's pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video.
I think you did an amazing job. I really like the shapes and the simplicity of the cat. I actually think you really captured it well.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Stephen is a great reminder that art may be the way we can all get through this. Now is an opportunity to learn something new and have the space to fail. It's inspiring to see him work at it every day, bit by bit. Although the world may be in large part shut down, art and the people who practice it aren't giving up anytime soon. If you've been trying something new like painting your cat, send me a message on social media. Our handle is @CBC Arts. And make sure to check out the ton of content we've created for you. From a list of resources and supports for Canadian artists to listings of virtual arts events and a ton of essays and videos on how people are creating and staying sane at home. You can find it all at cbc.ca/arts. Tune in next time for another deep dive into the captivating work of Canadian creatives. Peace.